Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The drama begins with a car mechanic named Hibiki who was on his way to work. Unexpectedly, he encountered a tunnel collapse. He was trapped inside for a full 4 days. In this pitch-black environment, without food, water, or phone signal, he relied on his incredibly strong will to survive and dug an exit out eventually. But to everyone's surprise, when he emerged from the tunnel, the world seemed to have descended into an apocalypse. The streets were empty, the transportation system paralyzed, signals interrupted, and the ground was smeared with blood. Confused, Hibiki had no idea what had happened. He ran to his workplace, only to find it eerily silent and deserted, except for decaying bodies. Suddenly, he heard a chewing sound coming from within the building. Upon investigation, he discovered that the manager was gnawing on a corpse. The manager noticed Hibiki, slowly rose, but suddenly lunged at him with a terrifying look. Hibiki, who had never seen such a scene before, was petrified but managed to narrowly avoid the manager's attack and locked him inside a room. More zombies started to swarm towards Hibiki. Knowing he couldn't stay there much longer, he fled the building as fast as he could. Fortunately, he found a small truck and barely managed to escape the zombies. Perplexed, Hibiki finally got some information through the car's radio. It turned out that during the 4 days he was trapped in the tunnel, a terrifying zombie virus had broken out. Infected individuals became highly aggressive, and the government was caught off guard. The only thing they could do was set up shelters in various districts and urge the citizens to gather there. However, instead of heading for the shelter, Hibiki had something more important to do. He hurried back to his home and loudly called out a girl's name, but there was no reply. Despair started to creep into his mind. The woman he cared about the most was now missing. Hibiki took out an engagement ring hidden in the drawer, lost in thought. The woman he was looking for was his girlfriend, Kurumi. They met by chance in a high school archery club and quickly started dating. 4 days ago, Hibiki had prepared the engagement ring and planned to propose to her after work. Kurumi, guessing what her boyfriend was planning, watched him leave for work with anticipation and joy. Little did she know, this could be their last farewell. The sound of a motorcycle outside the window snapped Hibiki out of his daydream. He looked out to see a delivery boy hurrying past. Excited at the sight of another living person, Hibiki ran out to follow him. He followed the motorcycle to a police station that appeared to be abandoned, but all the doors and windows were barricaded from the inside, clearly hiding survivors. Hibiki managed to avoid the zombies outside, climbed the outer wall, and entered the police station through a window. Sure enough, he found a group of survivors who had gathered there temporarily for refuge. The group was led by 2 police officers who hadn't had the chance to escape. The senior officer was a standard good cop. Under his leadership, the group of people had been brought together. Coincidentally, the junior one, Hiro, was Hibiki's high school classmate, but he seemed to hold some grudges against Hibiki, indicating some past between them. The group wasn't just waiting to die, but planning to go to the government-designated shelter. They planned to send the delivery boy to ask for help, hoping that the government could send armed forces to rescue them. Hearing that there might be other survivors in the shelter, Hibiki, concerned about his girlfriend, volunteered to go. However, he was persuaded to wait as sending more people would increase the risk of exposure. Night came in the blink of an eye. Sadly, the rescue the group was waiting for failed to arrive. Instead, they were greeted by an aggressive onslaught of zombies. It was common knowledge that zombies were more active at night. However, this night, their attack was noticeably fiercer than usual. An old man among the survivors deduced that the zombies must have been attracted by the scent of blood. It turned out that Hibiki had accidentally cut himself when he arrived during the day, leaving a trail of blood. Thankfully, the 2 policemen in the group were armed and, coupled with the previously strengthened defenses, they managed to repel the zombie attack. By the next day, the delivery boy still hadn't returned, suggesting ill fate. The food and medical supplies were dwindling rapidly. The senior officer persuaded everyone to make a breakthrough and head towards the shelter. Everyone agreed to his suggestion. After arming themselves, they hurriedly set off. It seemed that the zombies were not particularly active during the day. They encountered only a few scattered zombies along the way. Hibiki was initially fearful, but it did not hinder their journey. The group managed to reach the shelter successfully, but there wasn't a single living person in sight. It seemed nothing like a shelter at all. Anxiety surged among everyone. Hibiki even found a medical record book from the hospital where his girlfriend Kurumi worked. Seeing this, he became anxious and frantically went to look for her. However, despite searching the entire hospital, he didn't find a single person. All he found was his girlfriend's dropped work ID on the ground. Hibiki was incredibly disheartened at the time, but he was firm in his belief that Kurumi was still alive, and he declared he wouldn't give up. Elsewhere, a woman named Hiragi from the group of survivors refused to be accompanied and went out alone to find a restroom. She couldn't find a restroom, but she stumbled into a zombie-infested area. She panicked as zombies chased after her like a tide. There were no living people around as the shelter had fallen, and all the living people had turned into zombies. Hiragi ran desperately, unintentionally leading the horde of zombies towards the remaining survivors, putting them all in grave danger. Thankfully, coming to rescue her were the senior officer and June, who had previously worked as a porter and surprisingly had good combat skills. Hibiki, who had joined the school's archery club before, flexed his archery skills in the dire situation. Thanks to their joint efforts, the group managed to escape into a room and barricade the door. Facing the zombies that continuously pounded on the door outside, Hiragi fell into despair and begged Officer Hiro to end her shitty life with a gunshot. Hiro was also on the verge of giving up and was just about to comply when Hibiki came to stop them. He was not one to give up easily. To find his girlfriend, even if there was just a sliver of hope, he would strive to survive. His words managed to reignite everyone's fighting spirit. They worked together to create a makeshift rope from cloth strips, planning to escape from the balcony. But just as they were about to descend, they found that many zombies had also gathered below. Hibiki went forward. He slid down the rope, landed on the roof of a car below, knocked on the car windows to distract the zombies, then slipped into the car to find a bag of plasma. After catching the bow and arrows thrown down by the others, he threw the plasma bag into the distance. Then, with calm and composed demeanor, he drew his bow and fired an arrow, hitting the bag of plasma. The scent of blood that spread instantly drew the zombies away. The area below the building was temporarily safe, and the others climbed down one after another, narrowly escaping the room surrounded by zombies. However, the little girl named Yuzuki in the group wasn't so lucky. She had been separated from her mother during their previous escape and was trying to rendezvous with the group. She was on the brink of being caught by the pursuing zombies. Seeing this, Hiro acted quickly, firing his gun and taking down several zombies, but his bullets ran out and there was still one zombie charging towards the girl. Hibiki showed his prowess. With a single arrow, he took down the zombie and then shot another arrow into its head to finish it off. But at this moment, another zombie came running. As Hibiki was about to continue shooting, he was shocked to discover that the approaching figure was the delivery boy who was supposed to bring help to the group. As the infected delivery boy approached Yuzuki, Hibiki let loose another arrow, causing him to fall to the ground. The other survivors were saddened by this scene, but they held no resentment towards Hibiki. They were able to escape the zombies and settled down in a room. Hibiki was lost in thought, holding his wedding ring, when suddenly the radio received a signal. It was from his girlfriend Kurumi, who was desperately calling for help. Hibiki was both joyous and panicked upon hearing this, and he was determined to find his girlfriend. Without a second thought, he set off to rescue her, but he was a step too late. By the time he arrived, there was no one to be found, only a few bodies lying on the ground. The senior officer looked at the scattered shell casings on the ground and deduced that Hibiki's girlfriend had been rescued by the military. As it turned out, Kurumi was currently on a military vehicle heading to the only safe zone in the city, the Yokosuka base. The shelter she had stayed previously had fallen due to a few infected individuals sneaking in. Only Kurumi and a few other survivors managed to escape. They were later rescued by the military while trapped in a bus at the research institute. The senior officer, aware that the military usually stationed at Yokosuka, suggested that everyone head there together. Everyone agreed without hesitation. Needless to say, Hibiki was even more eager to go there to find his girlfriend. Hibiki quickly repaired a car on the roadside. However, they discovered that they needed more gasoline to reach their destination. So, the senior officer and bearded man left the group to search for gasoline. Meanwhile, the old man looked downcast and remained silent. It turned out he had been bitten by a zombie while escaping the shelter. Fearing that he would be abandoned if he told anyone, he kept quiet. However, it was impossible to hide the truth for long. The smell of his wound attracted a continuous stream of nearby zombies. Despite June, a martial arts expert, continuously fighting off the zombies and Hibiki's arrows not missing their mark, the number of zombies was just too great. It seemed endless. Hiro, growing more and more furious with each killed zombie, speculated that someone in the group must be injured since there were so many zombies attracted to them. There was no need for the old man to admit it himself. As the blood from his wound flowed more, he suddenly fainted and fell to the ground. Everyone instantly understood that the old man was the cause. Seeing that they couldn't kill all the zombies, the survivors had no choice but to run. But Hibiki didn't give up. He carried the fainted old man on his back, following the others to an abandoned nursing home. After everyone settled down in a room, Hibiki and June went to check the other rooms to ensure safety. They followed the sound to the end of the corridor and found a large number of zombies sealed outside the corridor. They couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. When they returned to the room, Hibiki found that the old man had been tied to the sofa, unable to move. It turned out that Hiro had bound him, fearing that the old man might turn into a zombie any time. Hibiki felt this was inhumane, but Hiro was adamant that he had done nothing wrong. Suddenly, June spoke up, saying that his sister works at the Japanese Virus Research Institute and is currently developing a zombie vaccine. It's possible that she has already been successful. If they could reach the research institute, there might be hope for the old man. Looking into Hibiki's determined eyes, Hiro handed him a dagger, implying that if he wanted to take responsibility, he should do so to the end. Meanwhile, the senior officer and the bearded man have finally found a gas station and are filling up on gasoline when they suddenly hear gunshots in the distance. The senior officer runs over to investigate and discovers a group of military soldiers in a battle with zombies. After joining them in the fight and making inquiries, he learns that an operation is being performed in the room behind the soldiers, and the smell of blood has attracted a lot of zombies. The soldiers must kill the incoming zombies promptly to protect the operation. It turns out that these soldiers are the ones who previously rescued Hibiki's girlfriend. Earlier, the military vehicle had an accident while avoiding zombies. One of the survivors was critically injured in the chest. Fortunately, a senior doctor was with them, who examined the injured party and suggested immediate surgery. Kurumi volunteered to assist as she was a medical intern with 1 year of work experience. Seeing that wave after wave of zombies was attacking, the senior officer decided to stay and defend the area with the military to buy time for the surgery. He asked the bearded man to return to the group with the gasoline alone. On the other hand, things were not going well for Hibiki either. As the sun was obscured by the clouds, the zombies outside became increasingly restless. Worse still, the old man started to scream uncontrollably as if calling his kindred. He then fainted. This terrified everyone. Hiro was resolved to deal with the mutating old man. The others were also uncertain and did not oppose Hiro's suggestion. Hibiki reluctantly agreed to end the old man's life, but only if everyone else left the room. When everyone had left, to everyone's surprise, Hibiki untied the old man and told him about the potential vaccine. Even the man was somewhat incredulous, not understanding why Hibiki was going to such lengths to protect him.